Welcome back, dear students, into the lecture number 4 on flame photometry. In the previous lecture, we have completed the instrumentation of the flame photometer. Now, in today's lecture, we are going to start a quantification method of FES, that is flame emission spectroscopy. Okay, quantification methods of flame emission spectroscopy, or you can say flame photometer, or simply we can say it's working. Okay, this total procedure is of the calibration method. Okay, calibration curve method. In that method, we are going to see is entire procedure with its graph. Okay, so this is the graph of that calibration curve method. First we will see the procedure. In this case, first of all, we have to prepare a series of standard solution of known concentration of the salt of the element to be estimated or prepared. Okay, that means whatever salt we are going to estimate, by using that salt we have to prepare series of standard solution. Okay, with increasing concentration, right? And a proper filter is first selected depending on the element to be analyzed. Okay, that means suppose we have prepared sodium chloride solution, then we have to use a sodium filter into the flame photometer. And when we prepared KCl, potassium chloride, in that case we have to insert potassium containing a filter into the flame photometer. Likewise, we have to take or insert the proper filter. Okay, after preparing standard solution, third step is the after steady flame is obtained, demineralized water is introduced in the flame by adjusting the background emission to 0. Okay, initially we have to introduce demineralized water into the flame. Okay, to adjust the background emission, whatever unwanted emissions will be neglected by using that demineralized water. Then the most concentrated solution is introduced and the instrument is adjusted to read full scale 100. That means from the above standard solution, highly concentrated solution were to used and kept into this sample and make that instrument full scale to 100. That means it will use to 100% emission intensity. Okay, then the standard of lower concentration are introduced in turn and their respective emission intensity are recorded. After that, we have to keep first number our sample solution, standard sample solution. Okay, and measure its emission intensity. Likewise, we have to third standard solution, fourth, fifth. Likewise, we have to keep and record its emission intensity. Okay. Now, in that case, after complete recording of emission intensity of all standard solution, we can measure. Similarly, unknown solution is introduced into the flame and its emission intensity is recorded. After completion of the standard solution in emission intensity, we have to keep our unknown sample solution into the same series. Okay, and record emission intensity. Then the calibration curve is then plotted by plotting emission intensity versus the concentration. This gives a straight line passing through origin from which concentration of the unknown can be determined. Okay, now we will see actual graph of that calibration curve method. See, in this case, this is the y-axis, this is the x-axis. X-axis will be denote concentration of the element in ppm. Okay, this will be the emission intensity. In this calibration curve method, initially we have prepared standard solution. When we prepare standard solution and measure its emission intensity, suppose we have prepared 5 standard solution with increasing concentration. When we record the emission intensity, okay, of that particular sample solution, it will increases. Okay, likewise increases. When we plot the straight line, from that we will get the straight line, okay, of the standard solution. But at the end, when we measure the emission intensity of the unknown sample solution, we don't know the concentration. Okay, the concentration of the another standard solution we know, okay, but unknown we don't know the concentration, but only know the emission intensity. Okay, whatever value of that emission intensity we are getting, from that we can plot the straight line on this, okay, and then perpendicular on to the concentration axis, then we will get the concentration of that unknown sample solution. With the help of that particular emission intensity of the unknown sample solution, we will get the concentration of that sample solution. This is about the calibration curve method. Okay, now the second one is the standard addition method. Okay, standard addition method. In this method, the emission intensity for the unknown x is first determined by aspirating its solution into the flame with reference to blank. Okay, that means we have to take a unknown sample solution x initially, then determine its emission intensity, okay, by using the blank solution or so on. Okay, then a series of solution having a definite amount of unknown x plus varying amounts of the standard s, okay, standard solution s, are prepared and their emission intensity determined by aspirating them into the flame with reference to blank. That means, see the second step. Up to the second step, first step is what? We have to first take a particular unknown solution. Suppose 5 ml we have taken the unknown sample solution, okay, measure its intensity, then we have to keep 6 beaker or 5 beaker which contains 5 ml of the unknown sample solution. Okay, in first sample solution we not adding any standard s, okay, but second, third, fourth, fifth, into that we are going to add a double amount. Suppose for second beaker we have add 1 s, into the third beaker we are going to add 2s, in fourth 3s, and fifth 4s. Likewise we have to add the standard solution. Okay, this is about the second step. A graph of emission intensity is plotted against the concentration x plus concentration of standard s, which gives straight line. Okay, this is then extrapolated to cut the concentration axis. The point of intersection gives the concentration of the unknown sample solution. Okay, now we will see its graph. See, this is the y-axis, okay, this is the x-axis. In this case, first of all we have take the unknown sample solution x, this is the x, and measure its emission intensity. On this y-axis we are taking the emission intensity, and this is the concentration. Okay, when we measure the intensity of that, we will get the any particular value. Into the other unknown sample solution we are going to add a standard with varying amount. Okay, this 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s, 5s. Likewise we have increased the concentration of each solution, that's why we are getting the straight line point. Okay, when we draw the line from that point, okay, that will be intersect with the y-axis, and when we extrapolate that line, it will be reaches up to the x-axis, and here we will get the exact concentration of that unknown x sample solution. Okay, this is called the standard addition method. Now we will see the third method, that is the internal standard method. Okay, this internal standard method is the same as that of the calibration curve method, but here in this case there are different suitable internal standards we are going to add. See the first point, a series of standard solution containing same element as that present in sample solution is prepared. Then a suitable internal standard like lithium is selected. Lithium is used as an internal standard into the sample solution. A fixed quantity of suitable internal standard is then added to each of the standard solution, blank and sample solution alike. Okay, that means the internal standard, okay, like lithium is added to into the blank as well as sample solution and standard solution. Okay, the internal standard will be added. Each of the above standard solution and sample solution are then aspirated into the flame one by one. All solutions will be aspirated into the flame and measure its emission intensity. The emitted intensity of for each of the above standard solution IS and II. IS stands for standard solution intensity, emission intensity. II means what? Internal standard emission intensity solution, and IX is the emission intensity of the unknown X sample, and II internal standard emission intensity is then measured at the different wavelength. One corresponds to element under study lambda x, and the other for that of internal standard lambda I. These measurements are made up against blank using appropriate filter and dual detector. The ratio of emission intensity of the standard solution IS to that of internal standard II, that is IS upon II, plotted against the concentration of the standard solution. This gives straight line from this curve. Concentration of the sample solution Cx can be read by finding where the ratio, in this case IX II, falls on the concentration scale. Okay, now we will see the its graph. Internal standard method, its graph. See, like calibration curve, we are getting the straight line, okay, which is passing through the origin. On x-axis there is concentration, and on y there is emission intensity with respect to the either internal standard or standard solution or unknown sample solution. This is the ratio Ix upon II. This is the Ix for unknown sample solution, II for internal standard, which is added each one of that as a standard solution as well as unknown sample solution. When we get the straight line graph, we don't know the concentration of the unknown sample solution like calibration curve method, but we know the emission intensity of that unknown sample solution. Okay, by that value, when we draw the line on this straight line, from that on concentration axis, we will get the exact concentration of that unknown sample solution. Actually, the working of this curve is totally like a calibration curve method. Okay, now we will see the factors affecting intensity of emitted radiations. Okay, factors influencing against the intensity of emitted radiations. Actually, three major factors is it. In that, first one is the viscosity. Okay, viscosity. Addition of substance causes increase in viscosity will lower the intensity of the emitted light. This lowering is on the account of reduced efficiency of atomization. Okay, any particular substance when we add, it will lowers the intensity of the emitted radiation or emitted light. Okay, now second one, presence of other metals into the sample solution. That means we can see the impurity. The presence of other metals also causes the alteration in the intensity of emitted radiations. To overcome these, special filters are employed which selected absorb radiation from other metals. Okay, to overcome these other impurities, or you can say simply the other metals, we can use special types of filters. Okay, that filter will select only particular wavelength from other type of the wavelengths. Okay, now the presence of acids, that means some acids may be present into the sample solution. At the time, what will happen? The presence of acids decreases the intensity of emitted radiations. The decrease is on account of disturbance of the initial dissociation equilibrium. Okay, that means presence of acid also decreases the emitted radiation. Okay, say emitted wavelength. Okay, these are the three factors that will be influencing against the intensity of emitted radiations. Now, applications of flame photometer. First application, flame photometer is extensively used for the estimation of alkali and alkaline earth metals, that is sodium, potassium, calcium and magnesium. Okay. Second, it is widely used for estimation of sodium, potassium and calcium in diverse samples such as blood, serum, urine, soil extraction, industrial and natural water in many laboratories. Okay. Third one, most important application of flame photometer is simultaneous determination of sodium, potassium and biological fluids, food, fertilizer, etc. It is used in the determination of lead in petrol. It is also used for the determination of calcium and magnesium in cement. It is also used in glass analysis to determine sodium, potassium, lithium, calcium and magnesium. Second last one, it is used for estimating boron in various organic compounds. And last application is the, it is useful in electrolyte balance studies in physiology and clinical analysis. Okay, these are the total 7 or 8 applications of the flame photometer. Okay, now the limitations of the flame photometer. In the limitation, flame photometer helps to determine the total metal content, but it does not give any information about the molecular form of the metal present in the sample. Okay, that means this flame photometer will be useful only to detect the element, but whatever chemical formula of that metal will not detect by this flame photometer. Now second one, flame photometry cannot be used for the direct detection and determination of the inert gases like halides. Okay, that means flame photometer will be fail while detecting the halides. Only liquid samples can be analyzed. Sometimes liquid samples are prepared with difficulty. This other some solid or gaseous sample will not analyze with the help of this flame photometer. Then flame photometry cannot be used for the direct determination of all metals. Second last, if two elements emit in the same wavelength range, then emission intensity recorded is due to both the elements. Okay, we will see the example of that. Fe, that is ferrous, emits radiations of wavelength 285.23 nanometer and magnesium emits radiations of wavelength 285.212 nanometer. This interference can be avoided by extracting out the interfering elements. That means, suppose in the sample solution there will be ferrous and magnesium is there. At that time, very close wavelength will be emitted. That is, see the difference 285.23 and 285.212. In that case, what we are going to do, we have to extract out either ferrous or magnesium for getting the good results of the flame photometer. Okay, this is the drawback of that same element, or you can say same type of wavelength element present in this sample solution. Okay, these are the actually the limitations. Here this topic will be finished. In the next lecture we are going to start AAS, that is atomic absorption spectroscopy. Okay, so thank you.